just a ride. Whoa, oh, it's just a ride.
It's on.
It's on.
It's jar time.
It's fucking on.
It's episode 11. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hey.
Episode 11 of the Just a Ride podcast.
We've been riding for 11 consecutive weeks.
That's crazy.
It's fucking neat. I like doing
Can we
consistent
get off
things.
soon? I'm feeling nauseous.
I want to just get a chichiro
I'm
and
hungry.
some
I
soda.
gotta pee at the very least.
And a hot dog.
Just go, man.
It's good to see you guys. I've got Jeff Getchell here.
How you been?
Shaiden Hutchman.
Yeah.
And I'm Zach, the script keeper. And we've got a whole bunch of crazy shit we're going to talk about today. But I want to just start with police stories
Let's
again.
just dive in.
If you want another police story,
Yeah, man.
Hell yeah.
let's
So-
go back to early on in my career, 27-ish years ago, when actually I almost got fired. So
You? No.
it really was not my I'll let you decide whose fault it was. So I had arrested this person named Stacy. I won't give a last name,
Stacy's mom.
but she had a dumb warrant. I don't remember what it was for. You know, ID'd her with her state ID, had the warrant, took her to jail. It was after hours again, so we had to do our own booking. So you leave the room, let them change their clothes. At best, you can go through their clothes that you're putting on property, make sure they didn't have any stuff they're not. Weapons.
contraband.
You could do a pat downs, but no searches. Anyway, go ahead and put her into the female side cell. Went about my work, did cell checks throughout the night. Got off graveyard that morning, went home. By the time I got home, we didn't have cell phones back then. So
Right.
yeah, I didn't have a cell phone until
Did you have a pager?
no. No.
Did you ever have a pager?
I did, yeah.
You were a pager guy?
Yeah.
Nice.
I did.
I never had a page.
But we didn't have cell phones then, so when I got home I had a message on my recorder that I needed to return back to work immediately after, and I'd already lived 30 miles away
Oh, shit.
from work. So it's,
Damn it.
8 o'clock in the morning, I got to turn around and go back. Well, the daytime jailer was on, so I got pulled in the office by the sergeant, by the daytime jailer, and they started asking me about Stacy. And she had a warrant, I arrested her, I booked her into jail. They're like, well, here's the problem. Is when I did my jail check today, Stacy's penis was inside of another woman's vagina because Stacy is a guy.
Oh, no.
Oops.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Like, no way I would have known.
You're not supposed to do that.
Petite, feminine. Yeah.
Like,
bad.
how would you have known? Like,
The
were
only
you
way I
supposed to
could have
check the
known
plumbing?
is had we done, strip searches or anything like that, but we didn't have, back then, we didn't have
Not your fault.
females
Jeff.
working
Don't
there.
listen to those fuckers. It wasn't your fault.
No, what would you have done?
Yeah,
I would have done the exact same
Yeah.
fucking thing you
Yeah,
did, dude.
but apparently I was supposed to know who Stacy was, and I did not know.
Well,
So did you get reprimanded, or did you get in
No,
trouble?
after explaining, all you guys know who it is. I was here by myself,
Yeah.
I'm new
working
to
by
town.
myself.
I didn't know Stacy.
Pre-academy, I might add, and
Listen,
I had no idea.
this was an easy night. She didn't even spit her thumb at me.
It's funny. It seemed like they threw you in the fire before you were even officially a police officer.
that's exactly what happened.
They're
That's why
like,
I
"Here you
loved
go."
it so much. It was great. I mean, you sank or swim.
That is
Yeah.
a good way to
They just-
succeed at stuff. Or to find out if you can.
I do prefer
like
to
swim,
learn
bitch.
that way. Like, it's high stress, but I learn the best in those situations where it's like, just figure it out.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. Jump and the net will appear.
As
Somebody
long
said
as
that
they're
to me
not
one
total
time.
cunts when I fuck it up, because I'm gonna, But
So that was a short story, but a story.
I like it though.
Yeah.
That's kind of goes against what you might
Whoops.
think. Yeah. Whoopsies.
Oopsie.
Yeah.
So let's talk men's health. You brought this one up, Shaiden, I
Oh,
think. And
yeah.
we're going to talk men's health.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think about this, and it seems like it's kind of coming more into the public light, which I feel like is good.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, we are the cause of a lot of problems. So,
we are.
and it's our health that's probably that. But
Well,
Are you talking physical health,
Talking
mental
mental
health?
I'm talking
talking
mental
health.
Yeah,
and,
mental health.
And I mean, yeah, I guess we're the cause of a lot of problems, but that's I don't know.
I'm being hyperbolic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Anyway.
one of two of us. So
It's mostly Jeff. He's the cause of most of the problems. No, I just feel like for a long time, I mean, certainly in generations before mine, and also in my generation, it was just, there's a lot of pressure put on guys to where, I think Who was it? Was it Chris Rock that said, it was one of those guys, I'm pretty sure it was Chris Rock, he said, women, children, and dogs don't have to do anything to be loved unconditionally, but a guy's only loved measured by how much he provides. Something to that. I'm paraphrasing probably, but I remember when he said that, it kind of hit me like, oh fuck, like there's some, I know he's being cheeky, but there's some fucking truth to that.
That's why it's funny, right?
And there's a lot of guys, myself included, that we kind of get twisted up and driven a bit mental by some of the pressure that's put on us, or just some of the lack of care that we're shown for, it's like, hey, I know I'm supposed to be strong, I guess, but I'm not sometimes. Maybe I'm not a lot of the time, but if I say that, it's just going to make things worse for me, so I just have to swallow it or bury it, or stick it into some bad habit or something, and it's kind of this self-fulfilling prophecy of shittiness. It seems like it's a legacy issue, and I think that people are starting to recognize it a bit, but it's something that I think should be talked about more and more widely accepted. And I mean, I'm not saying like, oh, everybody needs to pity me, I'm a dude, but I need help too. I'm not coming from that place, but I'm more coming from like especially as it pertains to guy, like don't be putting your guy friends down for being vulnerable once in a while, or like admitting that they're not doing okay,
right? And
I don't think every guy does that, but I've experienced it, where I try to have a moment with a bro, and he's just like, the fuck out of here, dude, rub some dirt in it, like,
right,
quit being a pussy.
I think
it's like, no, I need,
fuck you, dude, like,
yeah, I thought you were a confidant, let's talk.
I think that it seems reasonable that on a one-on-one, a friend is going to listen to what you have to say, but anymore with a social media platform where people are blasting out their issues and their depressions and all that crap, I mean, so badly screaming, it's almost sad, because it's like you're screaming for attention, but this is not what you need. The
venue for it.
Yeah, this is not the place for what you're doing. And I don't know you, maybe it's the only outlet you have. Maybe you literally have nobody else, but it still doesn't come across correctly. So that person very likely isn't going to get
what they want,
quote unquote, attention that they're desiring.
Well, even in that, I think, and there's so much stigma about like, hey, just go talk to a therapist. And that doesn't mean like, oh, I can't afford a therapist. That's fine. There's free hotlines that you can call. They might not be the best therapist, but if literally all you need to do is shout into the void, don't do it on Facebook where people are going to make it worse.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you just make a phone call if you really need to. There's no shame in it. I guess that's what, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. You guys can tell me if you think I am, but it seems like there is a social stigma around guys like asking for help for feeling
time.
like they're.
Well, I think that there is
getting better though.
I mean, it is getting better.
It is. They talk about toxic masculinity, but the reality is, and I think you would agree that men have become more feminized over the last couple of generations in comparison to older generations.
That's a fair statement. Yeah.
But they're still expected to be masculine when it comes to dealing with mental issues. Is generally, you have a problem, you figure it out. And that could still be general teachings from 3-4 generations ago, but I still also think it's an expectation not only from one man to another a lot of times, but from women to men. They're still expected to have this masculine mind. They just don't want the masculine hairy body and
well, they don't want the violence that's perceived with it or whatever. Yeah, it's funny because men and women, like, they'll treat their babies different based on their sex too. Like a boy will get a different treating even when it's an infant than a female by whoever the caregiver is, whether it's female or male. And it's kind of almost instinctual, where maybe it's a Western culture thing or something. But
right, and I don't know. I doubt it's a Western culture thing, and I don't think that's wrong.
Yeah,
right.
I think it's I think it's a person-to-person thing for sure. I mean, there's definitely some societal norms and stuff, but like I know what you're talking about, where it's like you have a little boy toddler and you're like, oh, toughen him up,
teach him to be tough right away,
whereas the girl is, the stereotype on the other side of that coin is for the little girl toddler to be like, oh, you're a little princess, and whatever,
don't let any challenges come your way.
Exactly. And I think both are shit, personally.
Yep, I do too.
But I mean, that's not to say that everybody does that, like I've been friends with, I'm of the age now where all my friends are fucking having kids, and like some of my friends are like, if she's a girl, it doesn't matter. her, like I'm gonna toughen her up too, or but I'll also protect her, or
Right.
it's just like it's kind of nice to see it, it's like, hey, we don't have to like
Fully
maintain the whole like guys have to be tough and rub dirt in it, and girls can never come into hardship, and you have to lay down so they can walk across you instead of walking in the mud puddle. Like,
well, it's back to our normal balance thing.
they're both kind of shitty extremes. That I mean, as with most things, I think the reasonable course lies somewhere between the two.
Well, and that's so
good concepts.
with my new experience of children in my life, I play somewhat of a parent role to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand the societal norms, but let's take the example of the children falling and getting hurt. I try to take it not whether it's a boy or a girl, it's what happened in the incident. Are you screaming and crying because it's reasonable and you're really hurt, or are you just looking to get extra attention for this? And so so sometimes I am going to be like, get up, just toughen up, you're fine, let's go.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And other times, I don't care which one it is, I'm going to hug them and make sure they're okay, and kiss their
I
alley.
think most
and,
parents are doing that too. I think
and then
that
usually
is,
that's all it takes: kiss their alley and pat them and send them on their way, and they're great.
Yeah, look, it's okay. You're just leaking a little fluid. Happens to the best of us.
But I would say, I mean, society does seem like it's getting more sensitive to everybody's issues.
Yeah.
And I don't know if...
But I think we're getting more sensitive to our own issues too, in not necessarily a positive way.
I don't know if it is positive either. It seems really messy. Like the way that we're trying to get to...
Do you believe that you can
helping
get
each
so
other.
in tune with yourself that you actually start creating problems in your head?
Absolutely. We are the number one cause of our problems.
Yeah.
It's our thoughts. Yeah.
I guess the other distinction I'd want to make too, because I thought about that as well, where it's like, being vulnerable doesn't... It's not part and parcel with being weak or a wimp. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the same thing. You can be vulnerable and still be a very strong person. I think arguably being vulnerable makes you more strong, especially if handled in the right way. But
Agreed.
But I think that there's a lot of misconception about that, where if especially with a guy, if he's vulnerable about his feelings or his mental state, people are like, like I said, another guy especially be like, "Oh, you pussy."
Well, how many times have you cried in front of somebody?
Yeah, not many.
Right.
Like,
And you're not supposed to. Like, this is one of those things where, since we did grow up at different, eras, kind of, like you weren't supposed to cry at all.
For my
They'll give you something to
generation,
cry about.
I'm just I'm a highly emotional person in general for my generation. That's just who I am. Whether it be laughter or crying or whatever, I cannot hide how I feel.
Right.
It's just not possible.
We love that about you.
So
yeah. Well, I think that's good, and I think that kind of shit should be celebrated. Like having it being applauded for repressing your emotions is bullshit.
But that's my point. But my generation is still part of that emotional repression.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, our job as adults is to become emotionally, adults, emotionally mature. But yeah, it doesn't mean shutting that off. It means really like communicating it better is what it seems like. Understanding.
We all need each other at the end of the day to some degree. Like I try to be self-sufficient and independent as much as I can, but I still need people sometimes, man. Like I can't. There's none of us can do it on our own.
No.
And there's no shame in being real about that.
For real,
what I mean? So I don't know. I guess I mostly just want to talk about it, not because I'm doing all right, but I just I look around. I've just seen it a lot in my life. Like I had a friend. I won't name any names. But I had a friend growing up whose mom was a very outspoken, kind of toxic sort of feminist. Like just was constantly talking shit about my friend's dad. Like, oh, he's a piece of shit. He's a misogynist. He's part of the problem. But she didn't work, and this guy was going out and breaking his back working. And his job ended up killing him. Like he was like spraying the inside of hot tubs, and like the shit that got in his lungs, he ended up dying from it.
Okay.
And I was like, man, that guy was, someone in his immediate family was talking shit about him, and he had to just suck it up and keep providing that whole time. And I guess he could have just left that situation, but like when you have a kid, it's complicated.
There was no one there to say, "Hey, it's okay, dude."
Seriously, that's what I mean. Like I can't imagine
alone.
what it would have meant to him to be able to just like vent that to somebody else, or like have somebody be like, "Hey, dude, like your wife's full of shit. Like don't you're doing great, and if it sucks sometimes, that's valid, man. Like,
also maybe wear a mask, bro.
Yeah.
Fuck, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, they have these things called respirators.
Yeah.
They have special cartridges for what you're working with.
Well, why do you think that they treat?
It was a long time ago.
Why are men treated this way? Did we do it to ourselves, or was this done to us? Did we decide that we needed to be tough to impress each other, or are we trying to impress ladies, or did ladies demand that we be this way?
Probably some combination of all of that throughout history would be my
It'd be
guess.
impossible to unpack, probably.
Yeah, definitely some genetics in that.
Mm-hmm. It's strange. It does seem like it's very natural for us to be like, as men, when you grow up, you're like, all right, which men do I look up to? Like, how do I learn how to be a man? And
me.
Right, always follow Shaiden. But you watch movies and stuff, and you're like, okay, John Wayne was the one where I think there was a whole generation raised by John Wayne movies and others. Is that the guy that we should be? Is hold in your emotions and always act tough and macho, machismo?
Or is it Owen Wilson?
Right. Yeah, is it the opposite?
Totally opposite.
There's a time for both. Like, I don't think you have to, like, I wouldn't recommend one over the other. Like, I think there's definitely value in a man being taught to be tough and shoulder some heavy shit, and don't gripe about it. Don't cry about it. Just pick that shit up and get it done. But when it's over, if it left you kind of fucked up and you need to talk about it, that's fucking okay too, you know? Like,
absolutely. If if you wanted to raise a young person, what would you say to it? I guess we're talking about men currently, but this could work for anybody. Like, how would you tell a young person, like, go yourself excluded? Like, who would you have them watch, or where would you have a young person go to observe masculinity in the way that's good?
I don't know. I don't know that I would. I don't know that.
Or is that even a stupid question?
I don't know that I would put
question.
one single person or source on a pedestal, because then it's just setting it up for failure, And everything's
Mark Twain.
to change.
Mark Twain used to say, if you want to teach a boy to be a man, you send him down to the docks, or you send him where men are working, because then they'll learn how to be. But then that's also maybe the tough guy place. It definitely is. If you had, would you send him down to the docks, kind of thing, or would you send him somewhere else?
I think a dose of tough work, but also a dose of delicate work too. Like, give them a taste of the spectrum, and then let them figure out the degrees in between.
Wouldn't the most exposure that you can give a child to basically anything be what's good? I mean, again, within reason, but different types of people, different types of jobs, different types of music, hell, different types of religion, if that's your thing.
Exactly.
I mean, try to expose them to more than just what you know.
That seems like a very nice way to raise a child to me. That sounds great.
And even in my situation, I have this idea of, everything being outdoors, and, they tend to lean that way anyway. But I'm sure that there's going to come a time when they start teaching me things that I didn't know.
Definitely. Kids definitely do that. Yeah. Especially about your patience.
Yeah.
Becomes crazy. So, yeah, I've noticed the same thing where my whole life men's mental health has been a back burner thing. Yeah. Where there's just that stigma where you just need to be tough. And it does seem like it happens from a really early age. And the people that are taking care of us are the ones that can instill it.
Sometimes it's just important. You just got to suck it up and be tough, though. I mean, that is the reality of life.
Yeah.
It is.
And
that's why I said time and place.
And when things calm down, it's okay to break down.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
So I think
men of war do it regularly, right?
Mm-hmm. Teaching kids discipline doesn't mean being a dick to them. You know what I mean? Like, so that's what's different, I think, in some of the things. In the last several years, right or wrong, however we're teaching our kids, we're being softer with them. We're hopefully discipline is still getting in there. It seems like it. Kids are still getting good grades and being whatever, professional athletes and all this stuff. It's still happening from these generations, but I don't know. I wonder, is it becoming softer because we're naturally getting more moral, or are we figuring something out, or are we going astray?
Well, there's a lot of variables there, but I guess if I was to put a disclaimer on this whole segment of conversation, it would be take care of your mental health. You don't have to be ashamed of it, but also don't expect the world to cater to your state of mental health either. Seek help where and when you can. You don't have to be embarrassed about it, but don't expect the whole world to walk on eggshells just because you're not in a good spot either. Like Jeff said, sometimes you're going to have to suck it up and move forward, but just don't push yourself beyond your breaking point without just because you feel like you can't talk about it. Like, find time, find space, and sort that shit out. There's no shame in that.
You have a responsibility to learn tools to get through. I mean, something like anxiety. It's like, there's medications for anxiety, but there's also a lot of mental tools.
Tons of things
that people are that
anxiety.
if they take the time, they can be taught and learned. At some point, you have to learn how you can adapt to your surroundings so it doesn't affect you so negatively. You have a responsibility to yourself and to the people around you. That doesn't mean you're not going to have bad days and you can't verbalize that to people that are important to you. But yeah, absolutely, you can't expect everybody to cater to it, and if they don't, you become a victim and multiply your issues.
No matter how good you get at dealing with it, you're always going to have times where it kicks you on your ass too.
Of course.
I
mean, everybody has anxiety to some extent.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I get anxiety about things that they make me uncomfortable. That's why I go do uncomfortable shit.
I have it bad. I get panic attacks. I've had it. My dad's he's been great about it, but he's never understood. Like, he's kind of learned about anxiety.
I think it's a real thing, and I think I think it's a real thing, and I think it can be chronic. But I also believe that coupled with medications and tools, a lot of people really can get through life.
Absolutely.
I try to treat it as an opportunity to polish my coping mechanisms or learn more about myself, which is hard to do when you're in the grips of it. 'Cause it literally feels like the world's going to end and you're going to die imminently. Yeah. And
chemistry is very powerful.
It's fucking, I think it's fucking gnarly. But you just, the best thing you can do is recognize it for what it is, and move with it instead of trying to rail against it like, oh, something's wrong with me, I'm fucked, I'm this is
just ride,
I'm wrong, just take your hands
I have
off
this
the bar.
idea I have this idea that people that suffer basically from anxiety, they forget that everybody does actually acknowledge that and go through anxiety, maybe not as frequently, but everybody's been through traumatic things and things that give them anxiety, and it's generally when things are shitty in life. And as your life gets better, the anxiety tends to drop down. But not always. Not always. Not always. I understand it's a real thing.
There's a spectrum,
but there's still a responsibility to handle that.
To do your best.
I agree.
All the universe asks of you is to do your best.
I have chronic anxiety that hits me. I could be having a great week and nothing's wrong, and all of a sudden I'll just get crippled. But I don't let it keep me down. As much as it depends on me, I work my way through it. I try not to make it anybody else's problem. If I really sometimes I need to just tell somebody. I'm like, hey, I don't need you to fix this, but I'm freaking out right now. Yeah. And I trust those people for a reason. They're usually just like, okay, like, any idea why? No. All right. Well, do you need something? Nope. I just needed to tell you. Okay.
Just your ears.
Yeah. Yep. And that's fine. So.
And that's, maybe that's another thing for this men's mental health and everyone's mental health. It's like, we do have kind of a stigma throughout my life. It's, again, changed over the last decade or two, where there's something wrong with you if you go see someone and talk to them, a professional.
Yeah, and that's also shit.
Well, I do, I think so. There is also the thing that they might prescribe you medication and that you don't want, but just the fact of going and talking to someone, I think it's like getting a tune-up with your car. It's like, it's a Ferrari, but you still got to put oil in it. You still got to fucking fix some of the shit in it. Yeah. And as people, it's like, maybe this is again about being kind of macho. It's like, no, I'm not broken. I'm great the way I am. And it's like, no, but you got stuff in there. Every one of us has something.
If you go to talk therapist and they listen to you for 15 minutes and their first brainstorm solution is to give you medication,
get the fuck out,
tell them to fuck off.
Yeah,
just tell them to fuck off. Because, and it's not. This isn't me being biased against psych meds as much as it is just saying, if they can't take the time to actually get to know you beyond even just one session, even if it's longer than 15 minutes, if you talk to them for an hour and they don't have any better idea or more shit that they want to help you unpack, then why don't you take these meds? Fuck them. They don't care about you.
Right.
And that's fine. It's okay. You don't have to trust them.
Right.
They have to earn your trust just like anybody else.
I could join this conversation once again from my world, from the law enforcement perspective on what happens in law enforcement. As far as, mental health and law enforcement tend to go together with PTSD and all the bullshit that comes with it, the masculinity and all that crap.
Yeah.
So, but what happens is over time, if somebody does end up having some issues, whether it be suicidal or just problems in their marriages or job getting to them, you don't really have anybody to go to. They say that you do. I was even part of the peer team, which was there for people to talk to if they needed to. But I'm not a professional by any means. But there really once somebody was at the point where they really wanted to go get some help for something mentally, they felt, PTSD or whatever, they never came back. Throughout my whole career, I never saw somebody who was honest about how they were feeling and would deal with some issues that went and got help that were allowed back. There was always a way to kind of push them out and redirect them.
Really?
And that's the department's fault, because it's becoming less and less, but it's still more of a male predominant job. Mm-hmm. So you have that masculinity, you have old school thought of, dude, you just got to suck it up,
right?
And then you have new school thought of, well, no. But even like after a shooting, the peer team actually gets everybody involved, and it's a way for people to talk about their talk about the incident without being critical of anybody else. You just, what happened in your perspective, how it made you feel, all that good stuff, right?
You've been a part of that?
Yeah.
Is it valuable to you?
It was valuable to me when I went through it, and that actually made me want to be part of the team. And I got to do a lot of that.
That says something right there.
But usually it wasn't in time. That is timely stuff. It has to be within, 72 hours to,
well,
3 to 5 days.
Yeah.
But we weren't doing these for like a month out. By then it was,
rehashing stuff.
You're rehashing stuff, and
that's hard because you might have already it's the wounds
fixed it a little bit. Yeah.
You've at least figured out how to hide it.
Yeah.
You at least figured out how to hide it. But anyway, so then when people get to the point where they have to go to counseling or something, I've never saw anybody go and come back. There was always a way to push them out, which, like I said, was partially the department's fault. But can you imagine the community? Let's say somebody did go, they had PTSD issues, were having some drinking problems, whatever. They went and got help. They were in rehab for 3 months, got all squared away. They come back to work, and I go back to work, and let's say they get in a shooting. What is the community going to do to that officer? Absolutely destroy them, and the department, because you let him come back after he had mental issues,
right?
And now he came back and shot somebody. Yeah. Who's to say that didn't have anything to do with the shooting?
If it was mostly the department covering their ass, like on a just in case thing.
And the question, it's never so blatantly done. It's always kind of some behind the scenes shit. So I don't have the answer.
Yeah.
I don't have the answer, but I can see where that would be the issue. I mean, you really are. You're just a number. And your value is based on the tax dollars for the year and how much money we have left for the cars.
That's too bad. That's kind of a primary example of exactly what I'm talking about. And not just, putting the department in my crosshairs with that statement, but also the community. It's just like, okay, so you can't have enough grace based on the shit that you've gone through and you've dealt with. And granted, you're not the one out there making life and death decisions. I get that. But still, if you can't have enough grace to extend that to this guy who's like, he went through that, he got help, which is good. It's what he should have done, is get some help.
Did the right thing.
Get himself straight. If it happens again, the grace should extend beyond that too, in my opinion. And that's kind of what I'm talking about, where it's like, it's okay. It should be okay for men to admit that they're not okay, but then they shouldn't be stigmatized after the fact for getting help, Yeah, that's a
who's
prime
doing
example.
That? Are you doing that?
I'm not doing that.
Right. I don't think you're doing that either, Jeff. You're not stigmatizing males for getting help. Who's doing that?
No.
Stop it. If you're at home right now listening and you're doing that, you're
doing that to yourself because of your own insecurities.
Hold your hand out. We're going to smack
yourself.
your wrist right now.
It could be
your own. People do it to themselves.
They do. So how do we get the word out where it's like, dude, guys and gals,
fucking stop.
Let's.
I'll tell you how.
You got some issues.
If any of you guys need to vent it out,
call Shaiden.
Talk to your therapist. If you can. But if you really just need to shout into the void, man, send us an email. We'll listen to you.
For sure.
I think I speak for all three of us. And if you need to reach out, we're here for you.
Absolutely.
The last 27 years of my life has been waking up, since I had a cell phone, the last 20 years of my life has been waking up to messages from random people asking help with their life. I mean, that is part of my life. That's part of what I do. And I still do it now.
We have that in common, actually. I deal with a lot of that myself. Yeah.
Well, I'm thankful to have two problem solvers as buddies.
We're here for you, Zach.
I appreciate it. I got a lot of shit to unpack. Have you listened to my show? There's a lot of stuff to work on, for sure.
I just don't know which voice we need to work on first.
Zach has talk therapy with the characters in his head. I think it's effective. You should.
I feel very zen lately. I
got to say, it's probably the most honest anybody could be.
It's pretty dumb of me, I agree. I've definitely can't play Art of War in this world anymore, so oh well.
pussy.
I know. No, I'm leaning into it.
I'm
Fucking
kidding.
tear down the walls. Well, okay. So I wonder what we can do for mental health besides just shout from the rooftops that it's okay to be a dude and not be okay. I think that's
Well,
just
the
let it
problem,
be.
because at the end of the day, that's all you can do, because you can't force somebody to fix themselves.
Yeah, I think it's just. I think
You can only
what we
encourage
can-
them.
Yeah.
What we can do is what we just did is just talk about
Talk
it.
about
I think
it,
the
yeah.
more people that just talk about it openly, and then that's what changes it over time. It's not going to change overnight, just like most anything else, But like the more, like you guys that are listening, go talk about it. Like it's fine. Like make sure your
Yeah.
friends know. Like
Yeah, like-
I mean, careful what you invite, because sometimes you hear some shit you don't really like. Ah!
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you're not good, maybe don't invite your friends' bullshit in. as
Definitely
well.
put your
Like,
foot in the
yeah,
water
yeah.
before you jump in.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but you get my point. Like it's just the more it's talked about, the more normal it becomes. I think. So,
Agreed. Yeah. So let's fix it. If
Yeah.
we can in our lifetime. In this week. Let's fix it this
yeah.
week.
We better fix it by next episode.
Well, let's move on to our reasonablest party, and we're kind of
Great.
keeping on that.
Let's fix
topic.
that too.
Let's fix that as well, for sure. But education is in the news right now. They just, I guess, forgave $10,000 worth of student debt. I don't know the details, so there's probably a bunch of stipulations in there that, blah, blah, blah. Education, as far as our reasonablest party, do governments educate our kids for the reasonablest party?
No.
Okay. So we wouldn't even have public schools like that.
I would rather have it be in the private realm,
Sames.
affordable private realm.
So that's the question. Like,
Well, if the majority of schools were in the private realm, there would be affordable ones. I think it's just via necessity.
Yeah, it would have to be, yeah.
There will be entities that will be like, oh, we're going to cater to this strata of people that are looking for education, and so that we're going to make them be able to afford it.
right. And we should say, I think all three of us want the very best education for as many kids as possible. That is the goal, and that's why we pick the market to do that. But now people, the immediate response will be, well, what about poor kids that don't have any money? So we already kind of have programs for that, and that is like the public school system is kind of designed around that. But
I'm all for social assistance programs.
Absolutely.
Especially as far as that goes.
I want to live in the most educated fucking society.
Yeah,
so.
that's honestly, that's been not the case for a lot of cultures throughout history and countries throughout history. Is like they're like, oh, an educated population is a dangerous population. Like
Right.
they'll overthrow us if
Definitely go after what governments don't like.
Yeah,
Do what the governments don't like.
100%. And that's why that's not why, but I am totally, knowing that, I'm totally good with trying to educate as many people as possible, as much as they possibly want to be educated, and then leave them with the tools to continue their own education.
Yes.
After the fact.
The most important thing is to continue
which
to
you all
educate
have.
yourself.
If you have the ability to listen to this show,
Yeah.
you have the ability to
It's-
educate yourself. So
It's the internet.
Yeah.
and your patience.
yep.
Yeah, so my goal has always been like to get a Harvard level education to whoever wants it. Like in my mind, if I could figure out a way to do that, it's that. And the market is the best way to get everything else. Every other commodity that we play with or service, we can generally do that. There's examples of prisons and policing and legal systems that are more complex, but education is so important. You would think that we would want to use the tool that works the best, which is people watching with their dollars as a market. The parents would have a lot more say if they have choices to take their kids out of school and in school. So parents' choice would immediately be, there's a lot of power in parents in schools, as we talked about before we did this and stuff. But I don't know. To me, it seems like the market is the only way to do what people are trying when they want. You talk about equality, equity. There's no way to do that in a government system, since we're funding it with property taxes in areas. It seems like governments are the antithesis of educating people in a fair way, but we've been doing it for fucking 100 years or something. Or
Everything the
I wonder-
government does is outdated too, including all the fucking
all the bells and shit. Yeah.
I wonder how many
It
of
hasn't
these- factory.
changed since we were making factory workers.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I wonder how many of these teachers really would think about, that we have in the public system now, would really think about opening up their own school, their own private school.
I've challenged a couple of my teacher friends that, because I think they'd be great at it. And
I think there's a lot of teachers that would, because there are teachers that go to other countries and do exactly that.
Look-
and they're passionate about it. And those people are rock stars, as far as I'm concerned.
It seems to me that the homeschooling's getting bigger and bigger, because there's a lot with computers, and there's a lot of other different options. And now you've got collective community parents getting together, and they'll
That's a
have
good
X
thing.
amount of kids.
all about
All
that,
essentially,
yeah.
this pod of kids is 10 families, and on Monday they're at this house, and this is what they learn. On Tuesday they're at this house, or they have one location, and this person's going to come in and teach this. This parent's going to come in and teach this, which I think is awesome.
Me too.
So
They
that
have to learn how to
changes a
read and
lot.
write. That's the main thing.
That
And it's
changes
not,
a lot, though, as
super
far as
hard.
how things are structured after education, too, because then we have to have some sort of, not unanimous, but widely accepted agreement that, like, hey, so, this high school diploma, or I graduated from 13 years of pod work, you know what I mean? Like, those have to have some level of equivalence, or we have to just take people based on their merit and how they fit the job, and fuck all that. I mean,
Do they?
qualifications
Because-
are worthy of not a requirement, but just worthy of consideration. I don't know, like,
Yeah.
because it changes that.
Couple things
and
on-
I hate that system, honestly. Like,
It's
saying,
not a good
couple
system.
things
this
on
piece
that,
of paper
though.
qualifies you to do this. No, not really.
It's not a good system.
I mean, first off, I have a good enough diploma, and it's just as valuable as a high school diploma.
Right. In the
So-
real world, yes.
Yeah, so it doesn't make a difference. So a different variation, I don't think, really would matter at all.
Yeah, maybe not.
And-
It depends on the company, which I guess would probably not be any different.
Anecdotal evidence, but I don't think I've ever met a homeschooled kid that isn't so damn smart. I mean, they're way smarter than other kids.
They do the order of
better
It tends
behaved.
to be that way.
the order of college preparedness is homeschooled, and then there's like unschooled, which is a weird kind of homeschooled where they just don't teach them until a certain level.
That's what
and
that gal we met in Vegas wrote books about, huh?
But they do better.
Unschooling.
They're prepared for college more. Then it's charter schools, and the only difference there is that the people that run the school have more say in the curriculum, and then public schools. And like public schools are, there's some really good public schools that compete with the charter schools and even some of the private schools, but almost all of them are in wealthy areas, and they're treated like public or like private schools. So. Yeah, I mean, that's the proof is in the pudding there, and that's been that way for a long time. Like, we just don't. You get what you pay for in everything else. Why wouldn't you get what you pay for in this?
Yeah.
But the problem is that having the government being part of the competition is what makes all this so skewed. Where we're like, I can't even imagine how would kids get buses and how would we get lunches and all these things. But again, it's like, let's remove the cancer.
The community would figure that out.
Yeah, and then we'll figure out how to get healthy with that, because we, just like you said just now, a pod full of parents that are good at teaching. Like, find the two parents that are really good at these. I also want to say that being a teacher isn't just fucking flip a switch and you're a teacher.
No.
The teachers that I know would say that, yeah, a lot of people were homeschooled during 2020 and whatnot, but they weren't. They were not educated at all.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
Well, that's
remotely
different. That
by
was forced.
teachers.
And they weren't paying attention or blah, blah, blah. It was way harder to be
But that was
educated.
different when it was forced upon families that had no preparedness for it whatsoever.
I agree. But
So-
there were some people that took it on wholeheartedly, and it is not easy. And like the Florida thing, and I don't know enough about this because I might be just listening to propaganda on the TVs, but turning military people right into teachers after a couple weeks of training, or I don't know if that's true. Somebody can write that.
I don't know if that's true, but if
It
is,
doesn't sound right, so it's probably not.
It doesn't sound right, so it can't. That's not reasonable at all.
Yeah.
But if that is the case, like, teachers shouldn't be looked at like that. They are not. You can't just be a teacher because you're nice or because you're smart or because I'm a big history buff. It's like, yeah, that's not how teaching is.
could have happened, though. I know that they supplemented the hospital staff with
Military people.
military
with
personnel
military training or with
not
medical
all of
training.
them. Not,
Right.
not from what I looked at anyway. But,
Shit.
I mean, they gave them rudimentary field training and then sent them into a hospital. It's like, oh, are you sure?
Yeah, let's not do that with our kids.
I mean,
yeah.
hey, thanks for stepping up,
For sure.
boys and girls. But it's just like, as an outside observer, I'm like, that's probably not great.
Right, for sure. Well, I don't know. So, as the reasonablest party, I mean, would we even have a Department of Education? Would we looking to dismantle that?
And like the Department of Education just has always had like a negative connotation to my mind. It's just like, we decide what everyone is taught. Get them while they're young.
Right.
It's like, I'm like, I don't know, man, because I hated school. Like my
Same.
constitution did not agree with the format of school. I loved to learn.
Same.
When I was a kid, I loved learning, but I despised school because of the structure of it. I had
Just-
a really hard time getting through it.
Just the very idea of throwing kids together because their ages are the same is so strange. It's like, well, why? Like, what, is it a competition? Which one of the 12-year-olds is the best 12-year-old here today? It's like, no, put the people in together that there were lots of ways to teach kids. Like, Finland is like the example of all examples because they do the best in education. Right away, they have like 2 or 3 teachers per classroom. That's right away huge. But then they also have it where the students, and this is Japan too, the students are teaching. The fastest students are teaching the slower students.
Good.
And
You should.
cool.
I think that's
exactly.
great. Yeah.
And it becomes more communal. It becomes easier to come. It's coming from peers.
If you've ever spent time teaching anything, you learn a fuckload from trying to teach something. Like stuff that you wouldn't have learned just by studying it. Like trying to teach something.
Shit, yeah.
It teaches you where you fall short on certain aspects of it. It teaches you practical application of it. It teaches you to look at it from a different perspective, all of which you may not have done just from sitting in a desk and trying to figure it out, you know. So
Yeah.
I think that's hugely valuable.
Well, what's the downside of these propositions? So if we put schooling into the market, and our goal is to make it so everyone can be educated at the highest education.
Again, I think number one is going to be cost for
Low-income families.
low-income
Yeah,
families.
for sure.
Is going to be the issue, but yeah, that would have to be resolved.
Yeah, I
But
think,
doesn't- I mean-
think we'd have to supplement it with
Absolutely.
social assistance programs. You know,
Absolutely.
And I think that's another thing that would probably resolve
Even charity
itself,
might work.
you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's what
I
it
would
be.
I would
charity.
volunteer.
What about-
I
what
mean,
about
if I was
something like-
working and I'm like, hey, if I can put some money a month, you know, if enough people are doing it, it's
Exactly.
like $1, like
Yeah.
50 cents a month, and poor kids get to go to school for free.
Yeah.
Fine.
Just throwing this out
Treat
there.
it like a
I'll give
utility,
extra.
maybe.
I'll give $2.
Yeah, exactly.
Just throwing it out there.
Okay.
Let's say that obviously we don't want to be telling people where they need to spend their money,
Right.
right?
I do.
But what about saying, okay,
It's on usurpation.
but you have to,
SKATCAST.com.
That's right.
but you have to give X amount of your income to your, favorite charity a year.
You have to, or you want to?
Like we're not going to tell you who to donate to, but you have to
Okay.
donate
Something.
to something.
Okay.
To something. You have
You
to give.
could break it up if you wanted to, or
Yeah,
whatever.
you have to give something. You have to give this percentage, and you have to give it to whatever you want, but it's got to go somewhere.
What happens if you don't?
What happens if you
I'm going
create
to kill you.
Do you get
Is
caught?
basically- Yeah.
Jeff specifically will
a
come-
mob
I will
comes
come to your house.
and beat you with a tack hammer until you submit?
I was going to suggest coal in your stocking at Christmas.
You know-
that works too, I guess.
You know what'll happen? Like, some cunt will be like, you know what? I'm going to start my own charity, and I'm going to give that $50,000 to myself, and I'm going to spend it on things I like. Things like that will happen.
That's going to happen no matter what.
Yeah, it's still better than giving the
or
government
even
the ability to be
or some
criminal.
sort of what is seen as a public service, roads or
Yeah, but roads would be an awesome utility that we would pay. Like, people always say that's the number one thing that people say. Like, well, what about our roads? My roads, and libertarians and anarchists and most people that look at free markets and stuff, they're like, well, shit, that's one of the easiest things to make.
Well, things that are a
And-
necessity are going to be the easiest things to fund. You want clean water? Great. We all got to pay for it. It's a utility.
Yeah,
all right, that's
exactly.
fine. You
Power.
want roads to drive on without holes in them? Cool.
Utility.
Well, we got to pay for it. It's a
Yeah.
utility.
And imagine if we paid for it not through the
There will
government.
be companies that go in and they cover all of that. They're like, here you go. This is your one. If you partner with us, we've got you the smartest utility package possible.
Mm-hmm.
It pays for your roads, your water, your education stuff, whatever. It pays for all of it. It's this much a month or it's this much a year, and then you don't have to worry about it.
And look at what your roads look like. We've talked about this before. It's fucking video game roads, where it's like the best lit roads. It's heated roads. There's no ice anymore on roads. It just goes away because we pay for it instead of letting the government filter it through the company they choose. And then that company's saying like, well, if we have the contract for 4 years, if we don't spend all the money this year, we won't get the amount that next
The problem
year.
I see is the roads will be different depending on where you go.
Totally would be. It would be, but wouldn't that be kind of fair on some level
It
too?
would, but it also be like, what do those lines mean? Oh shit!
We should make the widgets fit the widgets,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean but we don't need the government
Left
to
hand
do
needs
that.
to talk to the right. That's all I'm saying.
I mean,
in
stop
this city
signs.
we drive on the other side of the road.
yeah. What?
I think we can all agree that stop signs should
cross
look
the
the same.
community line, and you have to like the other side of the road.
Here, welcome to actual New England. Get on the left side. No, I'm on the right side. Yeah,
Here's your complimentary fish and chips.
I love it. I can hold the fish.
Yeah.
I'll take the chips.
I'll
though.
take his fish.
Well, okay. So I guess we would. in my view of this, like, let's pretend that this is a real party and we got elected to something. It's
I
like
love parties.
We would have a blast. Lots of cocaine at the reasonablest party. But we would, I would take away the Department of Education kind of slowly. Like, the federal government doesn't really do that much, actually. It kind of just causes problems. It doesn't fund a lot of the schools in the country. It just kind of makes it a political dumb thing.
Funds a lot of dumb shit in other parts of the world.
It sure does. But the state governments are also, you know, they're where I think most of the power is and stuff. So there would be some issues there. I don't know. But I would like to get rid of it slowly. But it'd be best just to march in and march out. That's, you know, just pull the Band-Aid off and whatever. But you need a big plan, because I don't want, just like 2020, we watched a whole group of kids just not be educated for a year or more.
Right.
And that's going to hurt us throughout the rest of their lives and all of our lives with them, because, you know, they may have lost the liking to learn, whatever. I don't want that to happen.
I got to play a lot more video games. That can't be bad.
Right. But I would volunteer Washington. You're right. And they will learn stuff. There's good writers in that. But Washington State, I think we should take it for the team again and be the place where we try it out. We've already got weed legal. All the drugs are legal. Fucking, we might as well see if the kids can, they'll be all right if we take away the schools.
Isn't this city itself, isn't this where like Burger King and McDonald's used to test all their new foods and their toys and
at one
shit
point
like that?
Coke too.
See, I mean, other free markets are doing it already.
Yeah. And I know we've been the guinea pigs for everything, bro. Welcome to
Probably
Spokane.
got butt cancer or something.
from
right in my left cheek.
From Crystal Pepsi Blue.
Crystal Pepsi.
They're like, we think the blue might make their shit green, but we're not sure yet.
Dinosaur egg oatmeal.
That didn't last long. But they spent millions on the commercial for it.
Were those things chocolate?
They were something.
They were sugary
I liked
treats.
them. I remember that.
All right, we got one last kind of serious conversation. And basically the question is organized religion good for society? So we just talked about, is education from government good?
Mainline that shit.
Yes, right into the veins. Put it in my eye. So it's not much of a pivot to go from one centralized control thing to another. And that's how I look at religion, and that's how I look at government, is they're both ways to trick individuals into believing that there's a central authority. And that's the way I look at both of them, because that's how they act.
So do you think that there is a meaningful number of people that need some idea of a central authority in order to behave in a manner that is considered moral?
I don't know.
Yes, I do believe that.
I kind of do too.
And that is why. Well, that's why
I don't think
politics
I personally do, but I think there's a lot of people.
That's why politics are mimicking religion. Religion in itself is dying.
I would agree. Oh, go ahead.
I said religion by itself.
He said they all need guns.
Guidance. All need guidance.
They all need guns.
Religion's dying, and people are replacing religion with government and treating it the same.
Well, government is religion.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So even if you get rid of government, and all religions, people are still going to create a new higher central power to believe in.
But they
always will. That's why there's been how many thousands of gods? It's the same thing over and over and over.
6,000, yeah. But how it couldn't be as destructive as one that's got its foothold in. I mean, the Roman Catholic Church is its own country. The Vatican is its own country. The amount of wealth that it controls is ridiculous, to where whether or not there's a God, that person and the people that work for him and stuff has so much terrestrial power. Like, that's the thing where it's like, okay, there's a God and stuff. Nobody can prove it, and the Pope's riding around in a bulletproof car, so he doesn't seem to believe it that much with his seatbelt on. He has all this human power to do human things and say, hey, Africa, no condoms for you. You know, those kind of things where it's like, that's too human.
There's an overwhelming number of people that want that.
You're right.
That demand that,
and that want big government too.
Where does it leave them if that stuff goes away? Where does that leave those people? Like, and I guess that's my question with posing this, is like, regardless of your personal feelings on any organized religion, do we think that it has some utility that we would be worse off if it wasn't there?
Well, I think the answer is
it's easy to say, oh, something would just arise to replace it, which I think is true, but I think that anything new wouldn't have the same sort of power as something that exists beyond a single generation, like beyond the current generation. You know what I mean?
The antithesis is what I was saying, right?
Yeah.
Like becomes powerful and meaningful when it has as much money as it does and has as much sway as it does. You're right.
Well, I'm one of those people that, I don't have to fear what happens to me in death to keep my personal morality on Earth, and I probably am. I mean, maybe
You're going
the
to
answer is
paradise.
maybe to me.
You're going to
I don't
paradise. You'll have a ton of virgins.
Maybe that too. Yeah, they're probably all going to look like you, and they'll stay virgins.
It's a lot of mothers-in-laws too.
Don't tell everybody I'm a virgin.
I was just saying I wouldn't fuck you, no matter what.
See, I told you I'm not pretty enough to be stupid.
That's just his opinion. Come on.
It's Jeff. His opinion's the opinion.
What was I saying?
Sorry.
What were you talking
I
about?
take great
I don't
pleasure in
fucking know.
derailing you.
We've derailed. I've been derailed like 6 times in my
I don't
own
know what the
brain.
fuck I was talking about.
Well, we were talking about religion and how it's not useful to society or how it is.
Right. Yeah, but I think that there are some people that actually do need that central being to believe in, to actually get through their day to day and, not murder people.
Right, but we're talking a small percentage of people need a sociopath or a psychopath is somebody that's going to maybe go kill somebody, maybe. But the most people, it's like it's this authority figure that's kind of directing their morality, is what it seems like. And I respect the shit out of that, because we all come out without any guidebook. We don't know. And so the Bible or the Quran or whatever, it is kind of like this little guidebook of human life. Like, try not to do these fucking 100 things.
I don't disagree with that. I don't think that's wrong.
But what bothers me is that the secular world has not done, like, for example, when I went to homeschool my kid in California, it's like, okay, would you like to be homeschooled Lutheran, homeschooled, Episcopalian? There were very few, and this is California too. There were very few places that you could go and find a curriculum that was very much secular, and this was several years ago and stuff. And another thing, like, religion has the absolute one of the best things that they do is the sense of community that atheists and agnostics and secular people just don't really have. And that, I think, would be a bane to society, to especially just pull the Band-Aid off that one, where it's like, well, now we have no place for you to go that you feel comfortable and safe, and there is nothing that really replaces it. But like, as an atheist by myself, I rejected all the religious texts, and I took what I liked and stuff, and I made my own moral code and compass. And that's what we have to do as responsible adults. Even with the Bible, even as a believer, you still are building that. So really, it's like, how do we give people a bunch of different options, which I guess religion is too, but a bunch of different options of, like, here's a little framework for human beings. Like, don't fucking do this and this and this and this, without, taking away from the without any superstition whatsoever. Can we do that? Because that's what they're asking for, and community too.
If we can.
Right? That's the thing. Maybe religion solved that imperfectly.
I don't really claim to be an atheist. I mean, my beliefs are kind of complicated, but I'm certainly not. I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Buddhist. I'm not a Muslim.
I'm an atheist to all those things.
You can put a bunch of boxes in front of me, and I'm like, nope. But I do have some deeply held beliefs that most people would call spiritual, but it's just, it's not, I built it for myself, more or less, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like I invented it all, but I took things that resonated with the core of me, wherever I could find them. I didn't discriminate. I looked as many places. I continue to do this. I'm not done. I'll probably do it till the day I die, and I think that's kind of the point. But I picked as many things that resonated with me for whatever reason, and I'm just adding them to a pile and seeing how they fit together and how they interact with one another, and that is my belief system. And it's not for anybody else, which is why I tend to not talk about it. It's for me. Yeah. And I think that it would behoove everybody to do some version of that. But at the same time, I don't feel a desire to take somebody's thing away from them because it's a pre-existing or preordained.
It's
system,
no small thing.
You know what I mean?
It's no small thing.
As long as your religion isn't, doing things that I find completely deplorable or harming other people, I don't have any desire to take that from you. And I don't even necessarily want to change your mind. I would talk to you about it. I'll point out inconsistencies and stuff. We can have a discussion about it, and that's fine. But if it's working for you and it's enriching your life, then fine. I think you should be allowed to have it, you know.
Sure.
But I agree. But I agree that it shouldn't go so far as to where that belief system is then wielded like a cudgel to control people, because that circles right back into now it is harming people.
The only thing we can prove
not right
is the terrestrial power of a church. We can't prove the spiritual power of a church.
Yeah.
You can say, hey, I felt better, I felt healed, and that's fine, and maybe that was what happened, but we can only prove that the churches use their power terrestrially on people and to do people shit. And that's the weird thing, because God shouldn't give a shit. Like, the whole point of the afterlife is like, we'll sort it out when you get here. It's like, well, then why the fuck do you guys all care so much about who votes where and what's going on? What the fuck are you talking about? This makes zero sense. But I don't know, like, religion, because of that community, it does have this kind of place in our society. Even, Nation of Islam, they took a lot of people off drugs, all those things.
In human society, all the way back to the beginning, there's always been some form of.
Well, again, because of that quest to find out what that central power is.
Yeah.
Right.
And that'll never end. I think that's just part
and that goes beyond life and death, really.
Yeah.
Right. And it's funny, this is kind of off subject a little bit, but it's like, I always respect people. Religion is a thing where, it's based on faith, but they're big claims. Like, I respect people that come up to me in my life and have said, I want to try and save you from your sins and those kind of things. Because when you think about it,
if you're like, I have too many, you can't handle it.
I've been that guy.
My sins are bigger.
but think about it. It's like the people, they really do believe it's like, I have the key to save your fucking eternal soul. All you have to do is this simple thing.
Of course they're going to try.
Exactly.
They love you,
but if they didn't care, that's the thing where it's like, that's why when Jehovah's Witness come around and stuff, it's like, that was nice of you. I know you're kind of coming from a weird spot and you want me to control my women and stuff, but that was nice of you to warn me. And I appreciate the proselytizing, because really, if what they believe is true, I'm
nice
fucked.
If they allow me to give it in
do
return.
back.
Yeah.
I agree. But you don't have the same deep-seated belief in the thing.
You have deep-seated belief in my thing,
right? But to counteract their thing, you're like, I really just don't believe your thing. It's not deep-seated. It's just like, sounds ridiculous to me, but okay. But I do try and be respectful of the positive things that religion does do. That community thing is very difficult for atheists, agnostics, and secular people to replace. It shouldn't be, because it's like the YMCA kind of thing. But would you rather go to church or the YMCA? And that, depends on where you are.
For sure. They got a swimming pool.
Well, sure.
They got a
but
gym.
if you want to talk about your
nice
marriage,
track outside.
if you want to talk about, my son is acting out and this and that, I would like it to be someplace like the Y. It would be just as good as the church.
Yeah, I'd be really scared to go to a church and talk about any of that.
I would too. I know.
It's
you just burst into flames, as they say when you walk into church.
Because
right?
like with the allure of being, I think the reason people are so comfortable with doing that in a religious setting is that they have it's like, hey, there's some being that's over all of us, or beings, depending on what you believe. There's some being or beings that's over all of us, and our problems are trivial to him, her, or them, right? And so we're all here to talk about it, and who am I to judge you, because our being just kind of gives us all leave to be fucked up as long as we're trying to be better. And of course this depends on the religion. Christianity is the one that I have the most exposure to in my life, but I've studied many, and I think that if you remove that higher being who's willing to work with you or condemn you, even we're all condemned, so it's safe to talk about it here because we're all condemned equally, right. Whatever the case may
we all
be.
believe the same.
Yeah. If you remove that, it's hard to build that same sense of open community sharing, because it's like, oh well, nobody has the answers.
Well, it becomes really scary, because I don't like people in groups over what we're doing right here.
There's no mutual unwritten contract that we've all signed that says you can't fucking treat me different when I tell you my shit. You know?
That is crazy.
Yeah,
I don't know, because if we
to piggyback on that, early 20s of my life, I did get very much into church and did surround myself with church people and did open up to church people, and they rejected me.
Yeah,
they're like,
happens a lot.
It does.
So
and it'll fuck you up too. especially if you're really seeking it with a an open mind and an open heart, and then you get tossed out with the trash. Or
it was pretty
condemned,
bad.
It's like
ooh.
Okay, well, there's no coming back from that, I guess.
I thought this was a forgiving place. Apparently not.
Have you read the book? There's not as much of that as you'd think.
I just watched the commercial for the church. It seemed so nice. They were all having dinner together.
Play Lamb was cute.
Yeah.
Everybody giving hugs and happy.
That one kid was crying, but it was a baby. So,
Well, have you guys ever been to a church where they speak in tongues?
Yes.
Have you?
Yeah.
And you were standing next to him when they were doing it? Yeah, same here.
Oh,
Have you ever been
flopping
to?
on the floor and shit, too.
I haven't seen the flopping, but the tongues was
I've
crazy.
seen the, speaking in tongues, touch them aggressively on the forehead, and they fall down and like have a seizure.
Ugh.
I'm like, whew.
I think that goes hand in hand with
You
it.
guys,
Because I think
you guys didn't give me the drugs that everybody else got.
I'd be feeling
Lord,
left
baby.
out at that point, for sure.
Yeah.
Like,
I was like, wow.
I love it when they get it on film.
You guys are really, really having fun just mutually disregarding reality, and I missed the memo, or you guys are on some substances that I didn't get handed when I came through the door. I need one of that, whatever that was.
Were you sure that I think I just got grape juice or wine? I'm not sure this bread had the LSD that the other guys got in it, but mine was just Jesus crackers.
Well, then they
Jesus.
had the churches with the snakes, and if you don't get bit, you're good to go. And if you got bit, it was God's will. So
it was
kind of a no-win situation.
But even all that, I don't want to take that from those people. If that's what, if that's what adds value to their life, fuck it.
For sure.
I don't care.
I think my
I'm not saying I had a problem with it. I just don't want to do it
It's
myself.
bizarre.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I'm like, woof, okay, not my cup of tea.
I used to go out and catch rattlesnakes. Who am I to say?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm sure I do some stuff that they would find.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I wasn't Crocodile Dundee picking them up by the heads. My friend did that and got bit. I cut their heads off.
Yikes.
So
this is a safer way, I guess.
That must be the best way to do it, how to deal with a snake. All right, well, fuck. I'd say we kind of got somewhere with that.
Yeah, I mostly just wanted to point out that because I feel that I have more than one associate in my life who is very angsty against religion, any form of organized religion, and they just want to see it all burn.
Right.
Like, we'd be better off without all that shit.
Yeah.
It's all old tradition-based garbage, and it's causing more damage than positive. And I'm like, I don't know. It does cause damage. A lot of them cause a lot of damage for sure.
All the hardcore believers. I mean, most Christians are very moderate. If you read the Bible, they're not following the Bible like a Christian would.
I think a lot of religions
1,000 years
are that
ago.
way
but they're
too.
certainly critical of you when you're not too.
Right. Well, they cherry pick stuff. Just that's natural humanity.
But I guess that's all humans. Now I can't put that on
Yeah.
Christians or anything. That's on everybody. Right?
Yeah.
A lot
we
of
all cherry pick
religions have
stuff.
a large percentage of their followers that are moderate about it.
Yeah.
Not even just Christianity. I mean, I had some friends from Iraq that worked at the detail shop. I talked to them every day. I had dinner at their house multiple times, and they were telling me that a lot of people where they're from are they call them cafeteria Muslims because they would just pick the parts that they like and then leave the rest of it. And I was like, that's hilarious.
That's exactly what Christians are. Absolutely. And Jews as well. It's like, well, we'll just take that and we'll do the fucking baptism and then we get the fuck out and go have our lives. Yeah. Go to church on Sunday. Well, all right. Let's move on to fuck this thing. And I guess I picked this one this time.
Just kidding.
It is a religion to some folk. It's ROI guys. And I brought this one up because...
What is an ROI guy?
What is an ROI guy? Well, it's return on investment. And I get businesses and I get putting your money into things and all that stuff, but it's those people that like learned a thing online for 5 minutes and they're doing fraud, but they don't know it, and they think they're an entrepreneur.
Or they do know it.
Maybe they do know it, yeah. Well, I've run into a couple people that call themselves things where one was a real estate investor, and then he told me what he did, and it's like, no, you're defrauding a person with really shitty things, and then lying to him about it, and then hoping that your lies and defrauding them will get you a house.
Example specifically without fingering the guy.
Well, okay, so he, I don't even understand it fully.
I thought it was interesting.
Well, basically, this person is buying. He bought the what is it? The right of attorney.
He was given. You don't buy that.
Yeah. Well, but he did buy power of attorney. But he bought it for $10,000 from a lady over this. I don't even understand it.
So he paid her $10,000 to give it to him
for him to have this, and so he has a house, and it's either her.
So she really didn't like the guy that's living in.
It's either her, but it's her family member, either an ex-husband or a husband or a child or her kid or something. But basically, like, fuck this, and I don't know how it works. Like I said, but he explained it to me. Basically, he's like,
Must be her house, and they're just living there, huh? Whoever's there is just living in it.
I think so. I think that's what happened. So it became their problem. But it wasn't a sale. He's not a realtor. And he was bragging about how I don't have to tell the truth because I'm not a realtor, so I can just lie to him and tell him all this shit. And I was like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? I'm this is just a retail store I'm in.
Take the house and kick him out, essentially. Is
yes,
the goal, right?
That is the whole goal for money. And and he's talking about, I'm only going to make about $70,000 on it or some shit, but it's worth it. And like that's small money to him.
Somebody's life, making him homeless,
right? And also acting like this is I'm so wealthy. This is just a drop in the bucket. It's like, fuck you, dude. You're working in a retail store. You can't be. But then he was also telling me how he taught another guy how to do that, and that just made me think of these ROI guys that.
Yeah. Short-sighted.
Yeah, it's the part of capitalism besides the crony capitalism at the top where they're playing with governments and just fucking people over because they can. This is like fucking one person at a time over for little, like, I guess, scratch money, $70,000, which I would love $70,000, but
used cars.
Well, it's not flipping a house; it's fraud.
It's absolutely fraud. But and I'm not saying that ROI guys, actual return on actual people investing, entrepreneurs, actual people, small business owners, all that stuff. Much love and respect to you. But the people that are kind of flippant and like kind of arrogant, like I'm a businessman. Like whenever I go to Vegas, it's like I would always see those guys, and it's like, I can tell by your shoes you're not, bro. It's like, whatever it is. There's little tells that they're kind of playing, and it just seems like they come up with some big boy words or like ROI, and I've got this return, and I've got my investments here, and all this shit. And it's like, then you ask them like, what are you doing? And they're like, I have no idea. I watched a YouTube video of a guy that was wearing a suit and it had cut off sleeves, and I thought he was cool, and I fucking listened to him, and he's right. Fuck you.
Rule of thumb, anybody who is actually something most often won't tell you that they're that something unless you ask them specifically.
Right.
They're not going to walk up to you or, just casually bring it up in conversation when they're not even your friend. Be like, I'm a businessman.
Oh, are you?
Who are you trying to convince?
Exactly. You sure you don't want to call yourself an entrepreneur? It's a much cooler word. But anyway, so I say fuck this because it's just that it's predatory capitalism for middle and lower class people. It's also gross. So is the big shit at the top, and the socialism for the wealthy and all that shit. But it's also gross when, like you just said, he's committing a crime. Of course, it's gross. but in my mind, he just was the extreme version of that, where there's these people that, they just fuck over a grandma for whatever, and that's just the way business is done. That's how your business is. You fuck people over, and you fucking count your money.
There's a lot of business. There's whole industries that are built around those kind of practices. Like the used automotive industry is that. I worked in that industry for about 5 years solid, and I kind of had this running joke with the guys that I worked with, and we weren't on the sales side of things. We were just sort of the back of house logistics stuff. So I wasn't really culpable. I was just a party too.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But
you got your hands a little dirty,
a little
but not
bit,
super dirty.
But they paid me for it, so fuck it. Wrong. Guys got to eat, Zach.
I know. Fucking eat your fucking pride. Eat your fucking.
But I had this joke. That I said the used car industry is just one big game of seeing what you can get away with passing off on the next guy, and it's fucking true. It's like let's just dress it up as good as we can for this little amount of money as we can to get some sucker to buy it, and then it's his fucking problem to deal with, and we don't have to spend any more money or time thinking about it. Dude, and that's it, man. That's the fucking game, and they know about it. It's not like they're doing it, unwittingly. They're fucking doing it on purpose.
Absolutely, and you feel it. Like I just bought a used car.
They make a lot of money doing it.
Yeah, they do. But you can feel it, and like to be fair, but the place that got my car from has been a fucking nightmare. It's been the lemon thing that you don't want to happen, and their attitudes has been what you don't want. Where you're like, they just fucked you over, and we both agreed that I was getting fucked over. I know, and it's like, but then they made fun of me for it. Then they're like, let's also be cunts to him. Yeah. Let's also not return the phone calls that we said we would.
That's the only way they can do it, is they have to create this disconnect.
Exactly. Have to, I'm not fucking over a good person.
Like, you're a lesser form of person than me because you don't understand the game.
Exactly.
You got played, sucker. So I don't have to care about you. That's their mentality, and it's wild.
Every industry's like that too.
And it can get in you. Like it doesn't take much if you're working along with those guys and you get into their rhythm. Like
ROI, ROI,
yeah,
ROI.
it can fucking get on you quick. Like
Gotta get them gains.
It's weird how your brain starts to shift, and you're like, yeah, fuck those people. They aren't smart enough to be wise to the scam, so they deserve to be fucked over. And it's like, woof.
That sucks,
Yikes, bro.
It sucks. It takes a little essence of your morality when you play in that game. You're like, well, I'm a cunt.
Great, you're
I'm
trading pieces of your soul for pieces of paper. Hope that serves you well in the long run, homie.
That's why I didn't ever work for the traffic unit. I just couldn't see myself driving around giving speeding tickets all day and being able to live with myself.
It's a mark in your favor, dude.
Yeah. My buddy who did, I'm like, how do you do it? Because he wanted to ride a motorcycle, so he got in the traffic unit. And I'm like, how do you do that? He's like, oh, it's easy. I just leave my soul at the door.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just soulless.
Yeah. That sucks though. It's like nobody likes me.
But I get to ride my motorcycle. I'm like, oh, you're a dick.
Yeah, fuck you.
I get a pretty good pension at the end. Okay, well, how about we talk about some advice that we tell ourselves? I think this one is, I'm not sure which one. Spending time with different folks.
Oh, yeah,
that was you should. Yeah.
I made a little tirade. I used to do this. I don't really do it much anymore, but I posted a little tirade on my Facebook. It's about the only thing I ever use it for, other than promoting
our music and
music shit. But I posted a little tirade, and it just came up in my memories when I went on to promote some music shit this last week. But I saw it and I read through it, and I was like, oh, that was actually a good reminder for me, and I thought I would just exploit it on our show and share it. But my whole point that I was driving at was it's really easy to spend time around people that just affirm the shit that you think and the way that you behave, that are just like, like, we're just like you, or yeah, that's the way that things should be, or oh, I agree with you, that's the way that things are. And it's really easy to spend time around those people, but that doesn't lend itself to your personal growth. If you really want to grow as a person and gain valuable perspective, the best way to do it is to go out and rub elbows with some people that are really different than you. Like, have a conversation with somebody that tends to piss you off, and don't come at them sideways.
Right.
Like, have an actual
good faith
conversation. Let them piss you off, but let it roll off your, like, just, when you're ready to be done putting up with them, just make a reasonable exit and go on. Don't carry it. But you never know, man. Like, sometimes just spending time letting people talk at you, even if they don't want to let you talk, let people that are different than you talk at you, or just be around them. Go to a fucking social event that you wouldn't normally go to, and even if you don't enjoy it, you're gonna fucking learn something. You'll come away from it going, huh, that was interesting.
Big time.
You will. I promise. And I don't make promises. Seriously, ask anybody that knows me. I don't. But
he does not.
But I'm confident that will change you as a person in a positive manner.
This is like a good argument for why people travel. Like, traveling is the number one 100%. Way to cure you of whatever kind of weird biases you have. It's like, well, go see how the rest of the world, or at least another part of the world, lives and stuff.
And don't just talk about it. Actually, go do it.
Yeah.
And then come and tell us the story at justaridepod@gmail.com.
Yeah, please, absolutely.
Seriously,
what adventures?
Go do some weird thing that you wouldn't normally do this week. That's my little. I'm calling you out. Whoever's listening to this,
get out your comfort zone.
You 3 people that are listening to us.
Go do something uncomfortable.
2.5, 2.6,
2.7 people.
2.7 people are listening.
Seriously, go out, go do something that you wouldn't normally do, even if it's just little. Like, go to the fucking library or something. I don't care.
I'll even go as far as say
be dangerous.
Go be excited to go try something new and fail at it.
Yeah, go suck at something.
Yeah.
It's good to go suck at things.
Fuck yeah, absolutely. What would you recommend? What's something good to go suck at?
Go to the shooting range and miss every shot.
Yeah. Go drive a race car and
go try and jog a mile.
Oh, wait, that's not
it. Take somebody with you that jogs, that knows what's up.
I'm tapping out on that one. That one sounds off. I know what jogging a mile.
I'm going jogging this week.
I know what that feels like. How about jog a mile with sharks all around in a zoo? I don't know. That's out of the comfort zone.
Awesome and terrifying. I'm in. Let's go.
I'm not doing that one.
I don't like sharks. They freak me out.
All right, so go meet new people, goddammit.
Yeah.
But not sharks.
It's kind of like sharks.
But maybe pet a shark. If you're afraid of sharks, go pet a shark. Okay. I should go pet a shark.
Go to the grocery store and introduce yourself to three different people.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Don't be a weirdo about it. Don't walk up and grab their cart and go, hi.
It's not always easy you don't know if you're weird. It's like, hi, hello. And they're like, that's immediately
weird. You fucking know.
Yeah, well,
you know if you're weird. weird.
Like if you're wearing the shirt that people think, hey,
do it in
that's
the
a weird
checkout line. That's the best spot. You're stuck there anyway. It's captive audience.
Right.
Just be like, hey, so Cheerios, huh? What's up with that?
or you can bring up the tabloid, like fucking again with this John Travolta. What the fuck, man?
You're already going to have something in common because you're either waiting to use the self-checkout and you're both dreading it because it's going to fuck up on you. Or you're pissed off at the lady or guy at the checking you out because he or she is taking too long.
Right.
So
Bring up literally any topic from Fuck This Thing on the Just Ride podcast.
That's right.
In the checkout line. Be like, so microwaves, huh? Fuck those things.
Boxer
right? Am I right?
shorts. What the fuck?
Self-checkout. Fuck that.
All right, last thing for today. Well, I dropped my ladder. Voice science.
Voice
This is
science.
things I learned this week. And Shaiden, you're leading us on this one
Actual
again.
voice science. Okay, yeah. So I've been kind of obsessing. I do that a lot, in case you guys haven't figured that out yet.
I've
been obsessing over the science of the voice and like vocal techniques, and there's things that you can do with your voice. Anybody can. It's just a matter of practice and training and visualization. And some of the shit I didn't even know. I've been a singer for my entire life, and there's stuff that I've been learning looking into this that's like, so as an example, there was this gal who is a drama teacher, and she was saying that everybody has a voice that is their true voice, and a lot of people don't use it in their everyday speaking voice for whatever reason. Like maybe you're just struggling to get too many words out, and so your voice starts to get higher because you're just trying to and you're just constantly like that because you're not really sure how to. That's not your true voice, but it tends to be the voice you use because you're constantly in that space when you're trying to communicate. So she said there's a technique you can use that will help you figure out what your true voice is, and it's like your most comfortable register, and it's where you will be the most relaxed speaking. And the way you do it, you guys want to try?
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
So you got to sit up straight, and then you want to take a deep breath in, and just as deep as you can, you want the breath to go all the way down to your fucking pelvic bone. And then when you let it out, you want to sigh out, and don't give it a tone. Just sigh and go, like just whatever. Like you want to make an audible sound when you sigh out. That's the tone of your actual voice.
Hello, Shaiden.
but don't sigh all the time.
I'm talking in my bedroom.
I think what I need you guys to do is go to patreon.com/SKATCAST so you can hear more of my not natural voice.
See? So that's his natural voice. He sounds like a cunt.
I am a cunt.
I'm not surprised.
Is this my natural voice?
I think we should do the next show.
If you want my opinion, I think both of you guys do speak with your like. I've been listening to you since I learned this. I'm like, I wonder if that, and it sounds like you guys do.
Shit. So
I wasn't
really,
and I've been like constantly reminding myself recently to redo it.
So one more time, so people listening at home.
Yeah, so you want to breathe. Sit up straight.
Sit up straight. Let's do it one more time.
Breathe all the way in, all
To
the
the
way
pelvic.
down to your pelvic
To your
bone.
cock.
Fill it all the way up, right to your dick. And then when you let it out, you want to sigh and make a sound, but don't concentrate on making a certain pitch. Just let a sound out, your natural sound.
Hello, guys. My name is
Sounds like
Zach.
that was like a death rattle.
This is my natural voice.
Yeah.
This is
and
probably
when
where it is.
When you talk with it, don't think about like, I'm sighing as I'm talking.
I wasn't.
You were.
I was the first time. Fuck you.
But like, just
It's
remember
about-
that tone.
it's
and then
about trying to keep your
let
diaphragm.
try to let your voice sink into that register of that tone when you're speaking, and you can feel it when you hitting it when you're speaking. You'll feel it resonating in your chest. Like you'll feel it in your core, and it's like, oh, that's my voice is coming from here now.
Yeah.
That's my actual voice.
And you're supposed to do that when you sing
supposed to
too.
do
You're supposed to
that. Yeah.
diaphragm that shit.
So and that was kind of her point. She's like, not only is it a more comfortable way for you to speak, but it also trains you to use your voice properly when you're
sing.
singing or acting on a stage. That's why they teach it in drama class.
Nice.
It's like, that's fascinating.
Well, you told it when we were talking about this pre-production wise. You said that there was a way to drop your octaves, and you're going to try it for us.
I will try.
All right.
So this was actually related to singing and also screaming, like metal screaming.
Uh-huh.
They were talking about vocal fry, which is that, for anybody that doesn't know, vocal fry is the Elmer Fudd sound of screaming. It's that's vocal fry.
I want to practice that. I've never tried that.
It's really fun to play around with it. So this technique, this guy, and I can't do it. He could just switch back and forth.
Motherfucker.
There you go.
Jeff's gonna be driving in his truck all the way home.
And he'll get a phone call from a band. They're like, "We heard you on Just Right podcast. We need you screaming, bro. We need that vocal fry, bro.
We need 18 motherfuckers in this song. and we need it now."
Yeah.
So This guy I was watching, he said you can take a note that's within your range, and then you can make it an octave lower without actually changing the pitch by introducing the right amount of vocal fry to it. And he demonstrated, and it was a trip watching him do it, because he would go from like a clean note to like a buzzy octave lower and right back. Like he could just go back and forth between them, which I can't do. But I've been fucking around with it, and occasionally I can do it. So
I'm gonna give it a shot.
Give it a shot.
Give it a shot. Let's
give
hear
it a shot. It might not be.
All right, back away from the microphone. Everyone. Watch your ears.
So if I was to do a note in my range, it'd be like E, and then what you want to do is kind of get lazy with it. Don't change the pitch, but relax your throat and maybe move your lower jaw forward and introduce that fry, right? So you can go
So you need to do more.
Sounds lower.
You can do more meditating.
Yeah, it is a throat singing technique. Like if you want to do throat singing, that's the same. It's all controlled vocal fry. Yeah.
These people are listening to, like, half the time they're listening to us going in their ears. We should mix that funny. Put it in. We'll pan it and shit. Thanks for listening to our podcast. Motherfucker. Well, that's things we learned. That's fucking interesting. Yeah. Both those things.
Go look it up. It's interesting.
Well, we hope you found your voice today. Listen, I mean, that could be what just happened.
Some voice clips. I don't know how you do that.
Yeah. Well,
let's hear those real
speak
voices.
Pipe. Yeah, give us your real voices in SpeakPipe, and that's at SKATCAST.com. Well, thanks you guys for hanging out. That was a fun way to hang out.
I'm off to the mountains.
Yeah. We're not out. He's going to go do some hunting.
Like Jeremiah Johnson.
We've got Pig Out in the Park coming up in a couple weeks, and we're going to have a good old time.
Oh, I will be around for Thursday. I'm going to come back and then leave again. So,
well, maybe
Thursday.
We'll
come down in the park.
Yeah, come hang. Yeah, Thursday we're doing the trio. Yeah,
and me solo.
Yeah, he's playing solo too. All right, you guys, thank you so much for listening. You can visit us at SKATCAST.com for more content. You've got justaridepod@gmail.com to send us your letters. We really appreciate those. Just a ride pod. And all the other things, patreon.com/SKATCAST, all that good stuff. And we'll talk at you in the future. And it'll seem like the present.
Something like that. I think that's always going with it.
God damn it.
Thanks, Shaiden. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Zach.
We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
It's just a ride. Whoa, it's just a ride.
Bing.
Bong.
That sloppy one.